Did you know that Greenland is actually much smaller than Australia, like three times smaller? It's yeah, quite interesting how the maps always pointed out. My name is Alexei. This is a business podcast, and I thought I'd put an end to this argument. All right, some of you may know, some of you may not know, but the world map is a lie. Okay, it doesn't quite work that way. So you'd think probably, why is Alexei suddenly saying that? Because I think there's a very important parallel between world maps and things like, profit and loss statements. But we'll talk about that later. Let's go back to Greenland. Well, thanks to a Flemish geographer by the last name of Mercator, Gerardus Mercator, his full name is, who lived in the 16th century. We basically have a map as we have right now. This guy is from a part of the world that's now Belgium. Belgium wasn't formed until 19th century. It used to be a province within Dutch. Anyway, he was a Flemish geographer who basically gave us the map that we have today. Now, the problem is if you look at a world as a sphere and you want to pull that apart on a flat piece of paper, you basically end up with some things that are somewhat enlarged. Very, very questionable explanation, I know, but the fact is that if you look into the square kilometer, a way to measure area, I'm trying to make it simple for you. If we look into the land area of Australia, we're probably looking over 7 million square kilometers. If we're going to look at Greenland, we're going to look at just over 2 million square kilometers. So how the hell does Greenland look so massive when it comes to the whole thing? Well, the explanation is there. It's basically presented as a complete illusion based on a globe that is basically flattened and projected exactly like that. And you'll find a lot of other discrepancies if you look at the world map when you compare things that are towards the middle of the map or towards the equator in comparison to things that are further away. So for that particular reason, Eurasia doesn't look as big. For that particular reason, you'll find that, other parts of the world are completely distorted as per that ratio. And you can prove that to yourself just by looking at the map and, Googling up square kilometer areas of the countries if you're interested in any specific ones. This is something that's really come up on the radar and always puzzled me. It's like, well, we heard the story about Donald Trump wanting to take over Greenland and thinking, wow, that's a really massive country and there's obviously a lot of resources there, but it's actually not that big. I mean, fact of the matter is it's not a good idea to take over anyone's country, but that's where Greenland really caught my attention. I think that it's very important to understand that there is always a perspective at which people look at certain things, maps, profit and loss statements, charts, and so on and so on. And while it works and has been working for many centuries, as we can see now, it's not exactly as how things are. And I think, it's probably a good question for cosmonauts who see our world from, spaceships and stuff as to why they haven't pointed this out sooner. Anyway, there has been some trends within Google and Reddit where people are bringing this up. But basically, this particular problem is called the Mercator Projection. And look, I think when it comes to business, which is what my podcast is really all about, I think it's very important to understand that there are a lot of businesses that basically have a lot of revenue. And you may think, wow, like there's some amazing numbers, but the overall profit of that could be razor thin. It could really be quite minuscule compared to everything else. And oftentimes, if the business model fails, that profit disappears very, very quickly. Or you may look at a business owner who's driving an expensive car and basically posts, luxury photos on Instagram and appears successful, where in reality, things are not quite like that. And this is where you really need to get some advice from people like, tax accountants that really know and understand figures, because paying taxes, optimizing your, revenue and overall profit is really something that can be done. I mean, I have met an accountant of Kerry Packer, Alan Mason, his name is, and it's quite interesting how he looks at the whole accounting game. For those of you who know Kerry Packer or heard him speak, there's obviously his famous speech in the government. I find that it's just about thinking outside the box from a different perspective, just like people who look at the world and consider things as they are. The government looks at things just like that as well. And unless you show them a different perspective or give them facts, they will not be able to, look at this otherwise. So facts is really something that I think you really need to understand. Numbers don't lie, although there's many different ways to present those as well. And I think a talented accountant can definitely have the same figures looking completely different. And I guess what you want as a business owner is to get, I guess, the best profit that is in your interest without getting you into trouble. Because look, there is a way of doing things by the book. There's a creative accounting as to how you can be looking at things and obviously doing things without breaking any rules. And there are a lot of gray areas as well. And I highly recommend that you avoid those sort of things and make sure you do things properly, but always understand there's another way to do something. So if you look at an actual business and you see all these big figures in terms of revenues, don't be deceived. Even big companies often record a lot of loss. In fact, I've seen recently watched a video of Jeff Bezos speak in 1999 on TV, where he was getting grilled for the fact that Amazon was not bringing any profits for many, many years. And he kept saying that, look, we keep reinvesting that money back into the business, and look where he is right now. So there is a strategy behind each business and how the business is ran, and there is the actual profit and loss at that particular given point in time. In any case, if you're interested in this, I'll put a link at the description of this video where you can get Alan Mason's book if you're interested in, accounting, which is fairly creative, and how Kerry Pack has been able to optimize his tax. I think it's quite an interesting read for those who are in that game. But I guess it's very important to understand the difference between an illusion and a lie, because this whole world map thing is really an illusion. Like, I mean, a lot of people think that that's actually a lie, but I think Gerardus Mercator didn't really want to trick anybody. He basically looked at things very differently. And back then, we're talking about people that have not had the ability to fly or go up in space, and obviously did not have a chance to confirm a lot of things. In fact, they wanted things that allow them to get from A to B. And if we look at the discovery of Americas, we're talking about the end of 15th century, where things have become available. And in fact, Christopher Columbus ended up in America while going to India. So go figure that one out. So look, I think there's a lot of things that really need to be considered in business, and also things like geography as well, in order to get the true picture. And I think there's like a comfortable sweet spot where a lot of people can live for many centuries, including right now. But I really think that, probably within the next few years, there's probably going to be enough people talking about this that we may actually get the world map corrected. How exciting would that be? Because in reality, if a child's going to ask you, hey, what's going on? And you're going to try to explain them this whole projection theory, I think they're probably going to laugh in your face and say, look, why don't you just correct it and make it more factual? It's a flat map. We want to make sure we can compare Australia to Greenland or any other part of the world and really get the true picture. Otherwise, what are we seeing here, and how does this actually, work out in the real world? So why does this matter? I guess illusions are not always bad. They can really be shortcuts to much more complex information to digest. And a lot of the time, it's a lot easier to put together something fairly simple. And I guess what we're really trying to do is we're trying to make the best with the tools that we have right now, because perfection is an infinite process. And like Michelangelo said, to make a masterpiece like David, for example, had to take away everything that didn't belong in that piece of marble. So look, there's many different ways to look into perfection, illusion, lies, and whatnot. But at the end of the day, what matters is what is left in your bank account and what you're able to bring home out of your business. So hopefully you understand the parallel that I'm trying to draw today. And hopefully you've learned a few new things as well. Anyway, my name's Alexei. This is Better Business Podcast. Share this with your friends and subscribe below. And if you know of any other illusions that are basically causing problems in the world, or they are starting to cause problems like this issue with the size of Greenland, comment below. Love to hear more about it. Thank you.